I tell you, Sir Topham Hatt's railway is an absolute disgrace. Accident after accident, still using locomotives from before the First World War. How this railway hasn't gone bust yet really baffles me. I mean, that incident with the boulder could have easily destroyed a whole town and killed many people. But even mentioning this incident is so ridiculous. A boulder running loose on the island like Indiana Jones? Just preposterous.
Well, how would you run the railway different if you were in charge?
If I discuss every change I made, we'd be here until Christmas. But basically, modernize the railway and get rid of the steam engines. And then fix this railway's awful safety record once and for all. I tell you, it won't be long until someone is actually killed on this line.
Ugh, I really do hate that man.
Who is he?
That is Otto Grubb. He's an advocate for transportation safety and one of my biggest enemies. He would thoroughly enjoy to take this railway down.
Over my dead body, he will. You've done a fantastic job in my footsteps, son.
Oh, please. He's right about the safety record.
Rubbish. That old boulder thing wasn't your fault. At least it wasn't you who disturbed it. Like I did.
I hope we can repair our image before it's too late. I'd hate to disgrace the Hat name.
Rubbish! Both your grandfather and great-grandfather would be very proud of you. You're a very clever man. Despite all the troubles, you've always managed to get out of it. And that is a true trait of the Fat Controller. The island of Sodor is quite a remarkable place. There are engines of all kinds that work here. Big engines, small engines, red engines, blue engines, the list goes on. Despite what some engines will say, each railway plays an important part to life on the island.
Come on! Where is that big blue bonehead? About time. What kept you?
It wasn't my fault. A cow was on the line, and we had to wait for it to be shooed away.
So much for being right on time.
I wasn't late. I was delayed.
Uh-oh. Do you hear that?
Yes I do. Here comes trouble.
Trouble? You think I'm trouble? Talk about pot calling the kettle black. You steam engines are much more trouble than anything about me. You put this railway's reputation on the line according to Otto Grubb.
Well then that makes you completely lose your credibility if you believe what Otto Grubb says. His head is full of so much rubbish it might explode.
You can deny it all you want, but I see change on the horizon, and it's not good at all. Sir Topham Hatt's days as controller of this railway are numbered.
Reputation's on the line, huh? What utter bollocks! We may have had a few accidents here and there, but when was the last time we had a fatality?
I honestly don't remember. I do remember some incident with a ditch though.
Oh, shut up, Thomas. I haven't had an accident in years. Well, no, actually, wait. I crashed into Tidmouth last year. Oh, pah! What I meant to say is that I rarely have accidents.
Sure, keep telling yourself that, Gordon.
Hello, Chuck. How's it going? Pretty good, sir. Everything's running on schedule and the passengers are all happy.
Excellent. Let's show Otto Grubb the true way to run a railway.
Oh, don't pay attention to that bastard. He's just looking for every minor fault so he can come up with a bogus story. He won't win. Oh, are we ready? All right.
where's that freight headed?
Wellsworth. Thankfully, this line of trucks are well behaved.
That's because all of us have taught them well, haven't we, Toad?
Quite right, Mr. Oliver. Right, here's the 1010 service.
Oh no! Stop!
Ow! What the hell happened? Holy crap! Get an ambulance!
I'm so sorry. I must have been sent on the wrong line and I couldn't stop.
Help us! There's lots of injuries! What the hell was the signalman doing? Oh Lord, have mercy! What happened?
It wasn't my fault, sir. I was switched onto the wrong line and I couldn't stop.
Of course it wasn't your fault. What was the signalman doing?
According to the signalman, the points were jammed, so he had to put the red signal. This engine must not have seen it.
There was no red signal, I assure you, sir.
Interesting. Doc is usually a very careful engine, so I find it very unlikely that he would be distracted. Maybe the signal didn't work.
I have some rather bad news. It appears one of the passengers injured happens to be the one and only Otto Grubb.
Oh, damn. Damn! God damn!
Never mind that, though. I've got some even worse news, sir.
What?
It's the guard on board the Express. I believe Chuck's his name?
Is he alright?
I'm afraid not, sir. He's dead.
No. Not Chuck!
The future of the Hat's legacy could be on the line. Advocate for transport safety Otto Grubb, who happened to be a passenger on that exact train, is planning to sue the Northwestern Railway for negligence. There have been a string of incidents on the railway, with the last one resulting in the death of a guard. Many are starting to question whether the railway is in good hands.
What utter rubbish. Accidents happen.
And this was just an unfortunate combination of events.
It's a good thing Chuck doesn't have a family to go home to. That would be awful.
I'm worried though, and you all should be too. If the courts rule in Grubb's favour, the Fat Controller could be booted out.
If that were to happen, us engines would not stand for it. We'd all go on strike.
It wouldn't matter anyway. They'd probably scrap us and replace us with modern engines. Our fate is tied to that of Sir Topham Hatt.
Has anyone seen him since the accident? I haven't.
He's probably rightfully being careful about going out in public, avoiding the media.
We've made a decision, Topham. We're going to wait and see the results of the trial. If you're found not liable, then you shall keep your position. But if you are, I'm afraid we may have no choice but to ask you to step down. I know you're a loyal and hard-working businessman, but the fact is passenger numbers are down and we are losing money.
I understand.
Accidents like this sometimes happen. It wasn't your fault.
It may not be in your eyes, but in the eyes of the public, it is. And that's the only opinion that matters, unfortunately. Besides, even if it wasn't exactly 100% my fault, a good man died doing his job on my railway. I don't think I can get over that. But it's over. They're sending out an official investigation. I might as well resign if I'm going to be booted out.
Now don't you act like that. Like I said before, it would be over my dead body for you to be removed. You must fight for your rightful place. You must fight, especially for the engines.
Be realistic, Dad. We've had many major accidents on this railway, and the board said today if the trial wins in Grubb's favour, I will most likely get the boot.
What are you going to tell the engines?
The truth, that uncertain times lay ahead. Engines, no doubt you are all aware of the tragic incident that occurred a few days ago. Chuck was a hard-working and friendly guard, and he was quite fond of all of you. I can't tell you how much it pains me that he died doing his job on my railway.
But it wasn't your fault, sir.
Unfortunately, regardless of whose fault it actually is, I am always the scapegoat. I am, after all, head of the railway. I love my job, and you all mean the world to me. But the truth is, especially after a not-so-great safety record, you may have to prepare yourselves. I will fight as hard as I can for this railway, but it will be difficult. I'm to attend a hearing next week. Needless to say, the railway's future depends on it.
That filthy German bastard!
Gordon, that's not helpful. Even though I will say I fully agree with you. But anyway, that's all I needed to say. I hope I haven't failed this railway.
Failed? You? Poppycock, sir. You may have had a few incidents, but let me tell you that you have not at all failed us, and you never will. You uphold the Hat legacy brilliantly. You've never cowered down in the face of adversity. You stand your ground. You put our welfare before anything else.
I must admit, I never expected those words to come from you, Diesel. You are a truly reformed engine.
Oh, well, your father did give me another chance.
And you yourself gave me a second chance.
That's why you have, and always will have, our support.
We would rather melt in the scrap heap than have you taken away from us.
Hear, hear! This court is now in session. Our case, Grubb versus the Northwestern Railway. Plaintiff, Transportation Safety Advocate Otto G. Grubb. Defendant, Sir Richard Topham Hatt IV. The defendant may have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, let's just say this railway has always had a bad safety record. But lately the amount of accidents is astounding. And the latest one resulted in an innocent man's death and severe damage to my back.
Back damage? You seem to walk in okay.
Well, I got better, but anyway, it is absolutely ridiculous that this railway and that is why I am suing this man for gross negligence.
Mr. Hatt?
Yes, I'm listening.
Do you have anything to say to these allegations?
I most certainly do. First off, I will admit that the safety record isn't as great as we'd hope.
See? He even admits it!
Silence, Grubb.
Anyway, we've had a few incidents. I won't deny that. But in all the years I've worked here, we've had exactly one death. One!
A death that could have easily been prevented!
See, this is where Mr. Grubb has got it wrong. Think back to those incidents. The boulder, Gordon's crash at Tidmouth, the collapse of the bridge to Brendam Flour Mill, etc. All of these incidents were cases of being in the wrong place at the wrong time,
Gordon's crash was caused by another engine breaking down on his line that forced him to be put into a siding where he couldn't stop in time. And the boulder incident? Haven't you all forgotten that it was revealed that someone had trespassed and accidentally disturbed the boulder, causing it to run loose?
That is not entirely true. It came loose again after you tried to move it with a helicopter.
How else was I supposed to move a bloody boulder that size? All right, that's enough. Lawyers, do you have anything to contribute?
Yes, sir, I do. Although Sir Hat may not be technically responsible for the incident, he is responsible in the eyes of the law. He is head of the railway, and thus must make sure that it runs safely. There was obviously a fault in the signal system that caused this accident, and it should have been caught if the system was inspected regularly.
Our inspections are very thorough, let me tell you that.
Well, obviously not enough!
Silence! Mr. Hat's lawyer, you may continue.
Thank you. As Sir Hat clearly stated before, this incident was most likely unavoidable. Looking through all the records, the signal system did pass the last inspection. Therefore, this negates any liability for Mr. Hat.
I'm afraid it does not. If anything, like I just said, it proves that the checks were not done properly. Either that or the driver wasn't telling the truth and was distracted.
You already heard the driver and fireman's testimony. The driver, the fireman, and the engine, even a workman, all stated that the signal was green. That's 4 witnesses.
Indeed. Sir Hat, do you have anything to say after hearing that? Well, I don't know what happened with that signal and why it had a fault after it had just been inspected. All I can say is that I have faith in my workmen, and those I don't have faith in I immediately discard of. Whatever caused this signal fault must have been a force we could never have predicted. Had I known about this fault before the accident, I would have made sure it was fixed. You people act like I run this railway as some sort of joke. You think I don't give a damn about passenger safety? Utter bollocks! I take these railway operations very seriously. The priority is, and always will be, the safety of the passengers. Wait until you hear the actual reports of the investigation before you make your own bloody thick-headed nonsense about my railway. Yes, well, thank you for that speech, Sir Hat. And the investigation report will be revealed after the break. What do you think? Is it in our favour?
It's hard to say, sir. You brought up some very valid points, but all at the same time, so has Mr. Grubb. The reality is, the outcome of this trial depends on the investigators' findings.
Then they should have revealed that information to me before the trial, don't you think?
I don't know why they've withheld it, but we'll all hear it today.
All right, now then, present your findings, investigator.
I shall indeed. We conducted a thorough investigation of this incident, and we have come across some interesting findings. This was all withheld from the public because we felt that if they had the knowledge of these events, it could be quite dangerous.
What?
To sum things up, it was not just the signal, but the points as well. It was a combination of the points being in the wrong direction and the signal showing the wrong message.
Well, obviously! That's why someone's now dead and we're all here!
Silence!
Here's the thing though. The nature of the fault was nothing like we had ever seen before. The signals and points are all electronic now these days. If the points were jammed, then there will be a warning light at the signal box. Based on the signalman's testimony, there wasn't one. To add to that, the signals are all automated, so if the train is stationary on the same line, within a certain distance, they will automatically go red. Based on several witness accounts, it most certainly was not red. To sum it up, the point stayed stuck, yet the signal remained green, despite there being a train ahead.
But surely someone would have noticed earlier that the points were not working! There's tons of trains that run through there!
That's a good point, but after I've finished, it will make sense. How do I put this? This fault, the signal, the points, the accident, the death of the god, they were all deliberate.
I beg your pardon?
What utter nonsense!
That's ridiculous! Ignoring the reason why someone would do that. How could they have timed it all up? That seems like a lot of coincidences to rely on.
I'll give you the simple answer. This person knew the timetable of the railway's operations.
Of course! Who has knowledge of that? Oh yes, Sir Topham Hatt! It was him!
Are you daft? I would never dream of something like that! Silence!
The evidence clearly indicates that Sir Hatt is not the culprit.
Show it to me!
This, ladies and gentlemen, is the key. We found it on the rails underneath the impacted coaches, as if it had slipped out of someone's bag. And I tell you, it is extremely good luck that it did. This reveals everything. As you can see, there are notes describing a very sinister plan. And it reveals exactly how it was carried out. First of all, as I said before, the person knew which trains would be rolling by at what time at Tidmouth. He then did something very clever. He went to the points, and using some tools, he put a device into the points. Then, using the remote control, this device was able to jam them. Then, somehow, he altered the mechanism in the warning system so that no warnings would show up.
But how do you know it was the same person from the book? What if some maniac wrote in his journal, and by coincidence there happened to be a regular signal fault?
We have CCTV footage. Around 2:06 a.m., the security cameras all went black, all except one. One he'd probably forgotten about, the single cam. We conclude he somehow hacked the security cameras and shut them all off, but obviously, not all of them.
Just one question though. Who is he?
That, I'm afraid, we don't know. As you can see, he's wearing clothing that hides his identity, so it will be tricky to identify him. What is clear, though, is that whoever this is, he wanted to stage a fatal accident. And it doesn't end there. An inspection of the deceased guard's body revealed something that even further contributes to that. His injuries did not match those of the train crash. He had quite a blow to the head, but a very concentrated one, as if he was hit by a sharp object. There was nothing in that carriage that was sharp enough to implement such damage like that. Therefore, we have a theory that this guard was struck with a pickaxe shortly before the crash.
You mean he was murdered?
Yes, sir. Our theory is that whoever orchestrated this horrible act wanted to make sure that this man was dead. They didn't want to risk him surviving the crash, so they took a precaution. Unfortunately, we have yet to determine who it was who killed him, but what is clear is that someone is trying to tarnish your railway's reputation. You see, this book not only reveals this incident, but 2 earlier incidents as well.
What are you talking about?
This, the crash at Tidmouth last year, and the Boulder incident all have something in common.
No, you don't mean...
I'm afraid so, Topham. They were all orchestrated by someone. Look in this book. Here it reveals plans to insert a small explosive into the engine of a diesel. This diesel was the same one that broke down at Tidmouth in March of last year. This diesel blocked the line, and thus an express train was forced into a siding where it could not stop. Fortunately, the shrapnels have been kept since then, and it was thought that the diesel had just ingested them somehow. But this notebook reveals that these shrapnels were once pieces of a small firecracker. It had been cleverly timed to explode right before the diesel reached Tidmouth and sent the shrapnels into the engine, causing the diesel to fail. Any remaining evidence of an explosive was all burnt up. We assume the small device was placed in the engine whilst the diesel was sleeping.
And what about the boulder?
It was revealed after the incident that someone had disturbed it, and they're right, but they didn't realize that it was disturbed on purpose. They used explosives to get the boulder moving, but it rolled in the wrong direction towards the narrow gauge railway. After that failed, it reveals something interesting. When the boulder was harnessed up to the helicopter, as it approached Croven's Gate, according to this notebook, someone fired a large bullet from the ground and it struck the rope, weakening it. The bullet was never found, but the helicopter did report hearing a faint gunshot-like noise. This notebook was never intended for us to see. It was used as instructions for all these acts of sabotage, and whoever it belonged to is likely now feeling very stupid.
Sabotage? But who would sabotage my railway?
We shall conduct a more thorough investigation, Mr. Hat. But basically, I would like to say to you all that Mr. Hat is completely innocent here.
All right, jury, what is your ruling? Our ruling is that these events revealed to us were entirely out of Sir Topham Hatt's control and were an act of a malicious sabotage. Therefore, we find the defendant not guilty.
Oh, you've got to be joking!
Very well then, case dismissed.
Congratulations, I knew we could do it.
I couldn't have done it without you. But I now feel it doesn't matter anymore. Someone is attacking my railway, and that is a grave concern.
I'm sure they'll find out who it is quickly.
Hello, Sir Topham. Congratulations on winning the trial. We've unanimously agreed to keep you in control.
Thank you, sir.
But of course, now there is even a bigger issue. What was revealed here is quite disturbing. We need to get to the bottom of it as soon as possible.
I fully agree. We will increase our security immediately.
Well, to be honest, whoever did it must be in extreme fright now. Having been caught, I don't think he'll be trying that anymore.
That's the question, though. Will he strike again? Right now on this railway, we've got a phantom saboteur to catch.
Well, we've been found out. You better get out of here fast!
No, it's time for some real revenge.
Very well then, Thitkins.